you've chosen the Food Solutions from Me to We, Building a Culture of Well-Being and Belonging. It is a webinar designed to help you navigate the 21-day challenge, to learn the ins and outs of it from a practical side, as well as to be inspired by the possibilities of what participating as individuals and organizations can mean for you and your community. As we honor our this is our 9th year of doing the challenge, we're grateful to Dr. Eddie Moore and Debbie Irving, who originally developed a 21-day racial equity challenge. And we reached out to them and said, could we do a challenge, but using that food system lens? And they very graciously gave us their blessing and said, go forward. And that's what we've been doing. And we have been thrilled to see the engagement, the momentum, and the building of community and networks through this process. We've seen the last few years numbers in the 9,000 range of who's participated, representatives from every state in our country, from Canada, as well as from 40 other countries, 12 Canadian provinces. So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate that you've chosen this time. It says this is important to me, to my organization, and we hope you're staying safe, healthy, and welcoming the spring that's upon us. So as we move forward, we want to, Food Solutions New England is committed to providing a land acknowledgement, honoring authentically the area that currently the university is on. And this New England area is still home to many Native nations, such as, but not limited to, the Penobscot, Passamaquoddy, Maliseet, Micmac, Abenaki, Mohegan, Wampanoag, Pequot, Nipmuc, Massachusetts, Neontic, Pocatello, Pennacook, Narragansett, and others. FS&E honors and respects the many Indigenous peoples connected to this territory on which we gather. FS&E being Food Solutions New England, the backbone for the challenge. And before we jump into the challenge, we invite you to think about, where are you sitting? What land are you on? And how can you support the work and sovereignty and well-being of the historical residents and owners, and work towards rematriation and reclamation? Our theme this year is, of course, racial equity through the food system lens, but really using a wellness and belonging focus. Our thoughts are with the people in Ukraine at this moment who have experienced injustice, and we recognize that even the media coverage of this war disproportionately leaves out some of the most vulnerable populations, where Black and brown refugees have been denied access, and white refugees, their need for refugee status isn't as much discussed. So we grapple with the persistent pandemic and the unjustified wars, but we know our commitment can make a critical difference going forward. That this work for racial equity in all ways that it, and shapes that it takes, is critically important today. So as we honor the possibilities and the need for this, tell us who you are. We know we have, at this point, there's over 136 participants. So if you can take a minute in the chat function, tell us where you're coming from. Where do you live? What's your name? Why are you participating in the challenge? So if you can send that along, we can get to know each other a little bit better using that chat function. So feel free to go into the chat and tell us a little bit. We've got Patty from Minneapolis, So different time zones, so at least not too unbearable if you're living in Minneapolis, Kansas City, Greeley, Colorado. Wow, we can really see Boston, that's great. Buffalo, Oregon, fantastic. So in many ways, we start to see the diversity and richness that you all are bringing, and also the ripple effects that we have. And as you look at this participant list, you can start making connections amongst yourselves. Oh, this person's right in the next state. This person's actually a neighbor. Maybe they're in the next building on your campus or community. So thrilled to see the action and the diversity of people. So welcome, welcome, welcome. With that, I'm going to turn over the next part to Karen to introduce the rest of our host team, and so Karen, I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, and then we'll introduce the other members of our planning team.
Thanks, Joanne, and so excited to be here with you all. And I'm going to introduce myself. I'm joining you from Durham, New Hampshire today, and I'm the principal of CAS Consulting based in Boston, Mass, where I provide mission-based consulting with a focus on advocacy, resource matching, as well as always a focus on health and equity in all initiatives, nationwide, statewide, and local. And I've been a part of the FS&E network for more than 10 years, serving on its steering committee, network team, and as a Massachusetts and coordinating ambassador for Food Solutions New England's Food Vision. As a Thomas W. Haas Professor in Sustainable Food Systems at University of New Hampshire, with a tenacious faculty and staff team, I bring this challenge that we're about to start to the campus for it to be engaged, just not the campus, but the surrounding town and community. And this challenge, I serve as a co-chair with Curtis Ogden of Interaction Institute for Social Change. And we're working together with members of FS&E, some of us with us today and others of our amazing team. And I can't say enough about how thrilled and honored that I am that you have joined us to delve deeper in the challenge today.
Thank you, Karen. And Shane, if you can give our participants a little more history of you and introduce yourself. Thanks.
Thanks, Joanne. My name's Shane Rogers. I'm calling in from my home in Milton, Vermont. I have been participating in the Food Solutions New England 21-Day Racial Equity Challenge for the past 5 years. And I am currently getting paid for being the communication director at Food Solutions New England, but I am also a community organizer, a wild food enthusiast, and much, much more. Throughout all of my work, I really strive to build more inclusive and equitable food systems in communities through effective narrative building and collective communication. And I couldn't be more thrilled to be a part of this today, and glad you're all here.
We are delighted to have you on our FS&E team, Shane and Sarah. Now I'll hand over the mic to you, Sarah.
Thank you so much, and welcome to everyone on the call. My name is Sarah Harpster. I'm joining you from my home in Keene, New Hampshire. I'm the executive director of the Community Kitchen. We're a food charity that serves hot meals and pantry service, as well as working on advocacy issues around the root causes of hunger. And I've had the privilege of joining the 21-Day Racial Equity Challenge 4 times, and I've also been a part of a New Hampshire-based 21-week Racial Equity Challenge. It's really helped to shape my understanding of our food systems, our challenges and opportunities toward justice. These food and justice are lifelong interests for me. I really enjoy food in many ways, including collecting cookbooks, and I've really been interested in justice, looking at many different ways that we can address advocacy, including having studied at Antioch University, New England on environmental advocacy. And I'm excited to continue the learning journey throughout my life work as well. This is one of the most enriching ways to engage with other learners across the world. So I'm excited to be a part of this group.
And we are excited to have you in part as part of this team, Sarah, as well. And my name is Joanne Burke. I'm calling in from my home in Newmarket, New Hampshire, not far from the university. I'm currently a food and nutrition systems, food systems professor emerita, active in issues of hunger and food insecurity, and serve on the board of New Hampshire Hunger Solutions, nationally on the steering committee of the Society of Nutrition, Ed and Behavior, their division of sustainable food systems, and working on issues of race and equity. I have been honored to be part of this planning team. Karen and Curtis and I have been part of the team since the beginning. And we continuously evolve, learn, grow. It's such a continuous learning journey for all of us in new ways of thinking, being, doing, reaching out, learning from, and it's in community with community. So as we move from the me to we, using a very welcoming and belonging lens, we invite you to think of all the ways we can elevate and commit to authentic strategies and commitments that build a more racially just, equitable food system and beyond. So welcome, welcome. Other guests that you'll be hearing from today, we are very fortunate to have community partners that will be sharing our broad community, because we will be hearing directly from Karen Banks Basarab from Johns Hopkins, from Susan Stevenson Martin, from Society of Nutrition Ed, where we met, but also Rutgers, and Orion Kriegman from the Food Forest Coalition, and they will be sharing insightful strategies and realities and possibilities of the 21-day challenge with all of you. And you'll be able to ask some questions as time permits, or send questions up in the chat. So even though we might be on electronic and webinar format, we still know there's lots of ways we can participate, and you can engage with us as we learn and grow together. So with that, just to give a little bit of background on the 21-day racial equity challenge, I'm going to ask Karen if she could just give a little background on that. Thanks, Karen.
Oh, absolutely. And I want to start here with FS&E. So just want to make sure that you all are in the right place in terms of this food system transformation, and why we're doing this, and how we got to do this. And Food Solutions New England, it is a multiracial, multi-generational, regional, collaborative network. And it's of individuals and organizations across the sector. So you're thinking about all the food system sectors: processing, distribution, policy, government. We're talking about education, K through 12, higher ed. We're talking about the farmers and fishermen. And yes, we're all eaters in this food system. And it was organized to provide that connectivity across the states, and really lifting up the importance of healthy food for all, racial equity, and food justice, with a sustainable, equitable food system, again, that feeds and serves us all. And it was launched in 2010 with that spirit of greater connectivity, trust, deeper collaboration, and innovation. And again, that power of the knowledge, the wisdom, the lived experience coming together for food system transformation. I said earlier that I was in Durham. I'm at the University of New Hampshire, which is the organization that initiated the planning of this work that we're doing here with Food Solutions New England. It is what we call the backbone organization that keeps us moving. It's the engine that keeps us moving and organized as we're bringing in our knowledge, our skills, our talents, and our vision, shared vision in that. And the vision is what you see, a snapshot of that. It really is where we're thinking about our call for what works for all to have dignity. It is when we're thinking about a vision of sustainable farming and fishing, healthy food for all. We're thinking about 50% of our food is harvested, grown, and processed and entrepreneured in our region. We're thinking about 20 by 60 is the New England food vision that Food Solutions New England put forth for us all to engage in and see ourselves in and be a contributor to that. What you see here is that we love this is our pathway to the vision, and it has the pathway literally, the walking through the people at different places. And we have the democratic empowerment because it's really important for us to all understand our power and our privilege in this aligned vision for healthy food for all, thriving communities. And a new food story, meaning that we're really looking for a new narrative where we're sharing the truth and information and stories that help shift our understanding and then increase our connectivity. And then as you're looking up the path, you have the sustainable economies as well, because we want that all these businesses, these industries to be vibrant and to be ecologically sound and equitable in their process, in their delivery, in their cultures. So that's the pathway to the vision. And as you can see, it's not linear. It's an approach and a journey. It's not one directional. It's all directional. And it invites us all to start at any place, whether you start a sustainable economy and walk, run, or skateboard over to democratic empowerment, or leave you in the greenery. You can stay in democratic empowerment for a little bit and then swim over to making the business case, because that's important too. So in all of this, you can see the intersectionality. It's important for us to understand that this vision of New England is interdependent. We are intertwined. We are in this together, the we to me, the me to we. It's both and back and forth, and really the shared values and shared success that we are looking for in terms of the transformation of the food system that feeds and serves us all. So today we continue this with spreading the ideas and strategies, the vision, the new collaborations, and as we craft and share resources and maximize our power and using our privilege wherever it is, so we can take action to build into a movement that is durable, sustainable, and again, always moving us forward and holding us close. That's a snapshot, just a snapshot of Food Solutions New England.
Yes, thank you, Karen. You do such a masterful job of weaving what our goals are and taking that lessons and navigating in New England and carrying it forth wherever we are across our country, across other nations, because food systems need to work for everyone wherever we find our place. So today's interconnected goals for today's webinar, and you can see the theme of always learning, reflecting, and acting. It's not just enough to think about it, but where does that leave us as we reflect and act? So by as we go through the webinar, we're obviously understanding or highlighting that need for sustained equity in our work, just giving real practical ways on what to expect as you join the challenge. Karen spoke to the intersectionality and interdependence, everything's connected, and celebrate our commitment to one another, to each other, and to the goal, to the unnegotiable goal of building a more racially just, equitable society. So if we look at today's agenda, you can see that you're hearing about why you'll hear about coming up next, why we created the Racial Equity Challenge, how's it going to work. We'll hear from our perspectives from the field, from our other guest presenters. exploring our own motivations and your motivations for next steps, and then leaving some time for questions and answers. So a lot to do in 20 or 30 minutes or so. So with that, Shane, if you can take it away in terms of giving us a little more history of the challenge and moving us forward. Thanks, Shane.
Thanks, Joanne. Hi again, everybody. So we asked the question, why explore racial equity in the food system, right? We know that the food system was built upon inequities, and we also know that our food system intersects with just about every single issue that one can imagine, from immigration and civil rights to the environment, and the list just really goes on. So the food system's transformation can really beautifully represent the multiple opportunities for changing the course of our own history here in New England, throughout the United States, and throughout the rest of the world. And these past couple of years, especially here in the US, have really continued to lay bare the stark realities of inequities in our country. We are still reeling from the murder of George Floyd. There's still sustained violence against Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. And we keep seeing the continued health disparities and the staggering rates of food insecurity felt ever more extensively by Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And the list continues and unfortunately goes on and on. But that's part of the reason why we've launched this 9th annual Racial Equity Challenge. We're asked to consider what it really means to move from me to we in our pursuits of racial justice, how this concept applies from advocacy to education and to everything in between that we work on, not only in our jobs, but in our day-to-day lives. And these 21 days are going to ask us to consider how our work and our passions in the food system intersect with the other systems that we all move through each and every day, and how our actions and our relationships can contribute to building community that is grounded in trust and solidarity and love and democratic empowerment. And we know that when racial equity is central to transformational food system commitments, we move from thinking to actualizing greater food justice. We move to creating an equitable world where everyone, regardless of race or ethnicity, has dignified access to what they need to thrive and live healthy, quality lives. And we are granted the sovereignty and power to make decisions that are best for our own communities. But given that this history of our food system is defined by policies and practices and values and beliefs that have for centuries benefited some and excluded and marginalized, disenfranchised, and demoralized many others, there's certainly a lot of work to do. But by embracing commitments such as this Racial Equity Challenge and the work that stems for it, and really working to address structural food system transformation and in turn intersectional societal change, we're going to be able to work with intention to build deep, authentic relationships, and again, move from me to we, and have an opportunity in our own life to disrupt existing frameworks and create conditions for a food system that promotes population and planetary health for all. So why this challenge, right? Among our FS&E network, we wanted to dig deeper to build skill and will around undoing racism and inequities and practicing intentional change. We found Dr. Eddie Moore and Dr. Marguerite Pennick Parks and Debbie Irving and their work, and are so grateful for how it has ended up influencing this challenge over the past 9 iterations. And why 21 days? Historically, it has been proposed that to change any habit, one must dedicate and commit to 21 days. And though there is no real magic number in 21, it is a focus and manageable way for us to formally commit to exploring our habits of thinking and acting. And why now? The reality is we can't ignore that the pervasive inequities exist. And while the issues are certainly daunting, we all have a role to play in upending them and creating a just and equitable future. And this 21-day Racial Equity Challenge is one step forward in that work, and we hope will catalyze many other steps forward as well. And we look forward to taking this together.
Thank you so much, Shane. And now that we've had a little more time together and more people have joined us, we're going to pause about the challenge from our side and learn a little bit more about who's participating today. So Shane is going to pop up a poll, and we will ask you to participate in where you live, what's your primary, the second question, your primary work or study or volunteer emphasis. Question 3 is going to be, how many times have you participated in the challenge? I saw in the chat, someone has joined us all 9 years or 8 previous years. And are you participating in the challenge as an individual or as a group? And if there's a group, well, how many people do you think are in your group? Give us an idea of the momentum we have individually and collectively. So we'll take a couple of minutes to take the survey and see where we are. We've got people from all areas of the country: New England, the Mid-Atlantic, the South, the Midwest, even the Pacific. Well, that's great. So all parts of the U.S. being represented as we look at these questions. Thank you so much. It's nice to hear about who's here with us and how we are joined together in this mission. What we have seen is that in many cases, people start off as individuals and then they invite a friend at work, and then they decide, well, maybe my department wants to do it, or maybe I'm going to do a Wednesday chat over lunch. And so whatever works for you as you keep advancing the ways in which thinking and being and acting can play out and commit where you live, work, and play and pray. There's just a lot of ways that the racial equity challenge can take shape. Sarah mentioned there were a group of us, I'm also from New Hampshire, that did it over the course of 21 weeks. And so lots of different ways. And we've got about almost 82% of our participants have responded. Is it possible to see some of the other answers, Shane, just in terms of the timing of making sure we have enough time for everyone?
Yep, folks are able to scroll through it. You can see that we have people from all over. Yep.
Oh, great. Okay. Wow. Okay. So when we look at, thank you. When we look at the different systems, so thank you for that hint for scrolling. We've got agriculture, we got business, we have community development, community organizing, distribution, education. I'm sure someone from fisheries is going to come. Food enterprises, food security, and access. We have, in terms of the interest areas, from food system planning to government to health and nutrition, natural resources, policy, research, all represented. And how many times? First time, welcome, 70%, second time, 18%, and we have over 10% 3 times or more. So that is fabulous. We will be making sure we collect all of this, but then we'll, just in the interest of time, say once again, thank you all for bringing forward your time and commitment as we do a challenge that's really nationwide, and we learn from each other across our domains. So just so we can hear from everyone, Sarah, do you want to help us offer those kinds of suggestions of how does this play out? What should I expect?
Sure.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Sarah.
for 70% of you, this is the first time through. So I'm here to share a little bit about how to do this challenge and what it'll be like. And now that everyone is enthused and has heard about the background, what do? Well, you go to the FS&E website You can go directly to the FSNE website, and also all of the participants today will receive that link that they can go to. We recommend that each person who's going to sign up, even if you're doing this as a group, do go ahead and sign up individually. Access the registration link and fill out the form that you will find there. And once you've signed up, you'll get some pre-reading, some pre-work that is reading and videos, and it'll give you some tools as well to get the most out of the challenge, because this challenge is each person's challenge. You can do this challenge even if you only have a few minutes a day, and you can do this challenge on a much deeper level. That they've already been sharing ideas. Our group here has already been sharing ideas about working together with other folks to go deeper. So you can also work together as an organization. For example, Joanne was talking about getting together over lunch on Wednesday, perhaps with your work group. You can sign up together and you can share the prompts out with your group. That is a possibility. And if you do sign up as a group, we have an opportunity to share who's your facilitator. And let us know if your organization will be participating. There's an opportunity to share on the website, so we all know about different groups that are working together on this. So next, we want to talk about inviting others. Once you've signed up, share the word and invite others to be part of the experience. You can send out personal invitations. You can put out newsletters. You can use your social media, but reach out to your networks, because the more people who join us in this journey together, the more we can understand what a just food system looks like and build it together. So once you have shared the word, as we mentioned, you're going to receive daily prompts in your email. It's going to be a question to get you to reflect on race in your own life and work, and it'll include a link to a short video or an article that'll offer a frame for you to reflect on the material that you see that day. Learn, reflect, act, and go deeper. You can spend 15 to 20 minutes or more than that if you have the time. And then on the weekends, there's going to be time to catch up, to reflect, to explore other resources. We have a resource list. You can go back to Food Solutions New England website and see all of the great materials that you've already reflected on, or that they have been collected over the years. And remember, it's fine to go at your own pace. So you don't have to get the work from the past 3 days done in order to go on to the next day. There's no need to go back. It's always great to go back, but it doesn't hold you back if you want to just read today's material. We also really encourage you to reflect and journal about your experience. Rather than just thinking about the prompt and moving on, feel free to capture your thoughts and journal. There's also a resource list with links to additional videos, blogs, articles, and books. And so you can go and check out things that you didn't get to explore completely, or that really are coming up for you in this time around. If you've been through it before, and there will be also new materials to look at this year if you've been through the challenge 8 times before. There's online discussions as well. So when you go in and when you receive your emails, you will also see that there are opportunities to interact with the team that's putting the challenge together. This is about going from me to we. So you will find online discussion platforms. You can find the space to share your thoughts with others. read what others have to say about it and engage in conversation together. So practice and share this with your people. There's also hosted discussion groups so that we can go from a group of learners to group learning. So there you can yourself can go to your own group and lead a discussion during weekly staff meetings or community gatherings, or even around your home dinner table. FS&E will also host a facilitated online discussion every Friday during the challenge from noon to 1:30, and you'll have an opportunity to register through the email prompts that you get. But there are also tools that you can use with your own group. So we have a discussion guide on the website as well that you can download, and it has sample discussion agendas and tips on how to handle difficult discussion topics that might come up in your conversations as you review this material together. Here's a nice picture of the discussion guide. So if your group or organization is participating in the challenge together, do remember to have them listed. And you will have that opportunity in your form, and you can use this badge on your own website to share that information with your community. Hundreds of businesses, nonprofits, agencies, universities, faith groups, and other entities across the country have participated. Last year, there were more than 900 organizations that participated in this way. So finally, please do connect with us throughout the experience online. We will be using hashtag FS&E Equity Challenge on social media to spread the word. And if you have any tech questions during the challenge, you can go to contact us on the link at or use fsne.info@unh.edu. And you can use the Q&A function on your screen. So if there are any questions, we'll have time at the end, or we can also, we will also be available to answer them offline afterwards.
That's great. So now, and some of those questions might have to just come in through the chat because it always takes longer than we anticipate. So it's my honor to introduce the three speakers, Susan Stephenson Martin, Karen Banks Bassarup, and Orion Craigman. Karen is from Johns Hopkins, Orion from the Boston Food Forest Coalition, and Susan from Society for Nutrition Ed and Rutgers University. So without further ado, we'll get into the meat of the matter, but each one of our presenters really brings such a deep and rich commitment and engagement with issues of race, equity, and justice. So thank you for participating, but knowing our time keeps moving along, let's just jump in right away. So here's the first question. Based on introducing yourself briefly, and then sharing a little bit about how you engage with issues and topics of and commitments to race and equity in your work. So Karen, can you share that? Thank you.
Sure, thank you. And thank you for having me on today. I'm a program officer with the Johns Hopkins Center for a Livable Future. We're based in Baltimore, Maryland. Through the center, I manage a project called the Food Policy Networks Project, and we support it's like a network of networks of councils, coalitions, and alliances that bring people together in their communities to repair and reshape their food systems to reflect their values. They do this mostly through changing how their local food systems are governed, so changing local, state, and tribal laws. And I would say that they bring the people back into policy and decisions about how their food systems functions in policy. So the work that I do in terms of racial equity and inclusion is twofold. One is through the network of food policy councils. We provide support, resources to help them figure out what to do in these models that bring stakeholders together of how they address equity. Currently, we have a community of learning and practice that's supported by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation to learn with councils about how they change their culture, not just reset their tables or outreach to diverse stakeholders, but really thinking about how do you shift the culture of food policy councils to be more equitable. And then through the Center for a Livable Future, we're on our own journey as an organization within a university institution to better understand how we can situate and focus on equity through our work in food systems at the university and through public health.
That is great. So really working in and with for community. Thanks so much, Karen. Susan, if you don't mind sharing that same kind of a little bit about yourself and how you engage in race and equity work.
Again, I'll echo, thank you very much for inviting me to be a speaker here. I'm Susan Stevenson Martin. So I'll have two hats, as Joanne has been alluding to. I am the Rutgers New Jersey Medical School WIC director. I'm also an adjunct lecturer for the Department of Nutritional Sciences, and I have done over 20 years plus work with the Society of Nutrition Education and Behavior in a myriad of leadership roles with the board and with our foundation. So I guess my fundamental experience is a personal one in terms of being within the nutrition profession and for 30 plus years, and the lack of diversity within this profession, and being oftentimes the only woman of color, or not being recognized in the community in which we're serving, or not seeing that diversity among our constituents, was really when I started the work. Also being first generation American, born of immigrant parents, you can imagine Brooklyn, New York, just imagine how I evolved within the field of nutrition. So food insecurity, food access has always been a passion of mine, and then looking at the diversity among that. Obviously within our WIC system, or just looking at the disparities among our Black and brown moms and the health disparities around infant mortality and prenatal care, obviously then making sure that looking through that lens and ensuring the underserved communities within our urban areas and among those particular underserved ethnicities and races are equitable, right? Or receiving quality care, quality food access, looking at the supply chain disadvantages, most recently the formula recall, and looking how that impacted our moms. And then obviously in academia, because obviously I would like to see our profession change, or the profession within nutrition, and us really hearken and start looking and networking in other areas to provide a diverse nutrition arena for us to educate our new nutritionists and RDs that are coming out into the world. So when they are in the community or clinical settings, they can empathize and be part of the community and understand the story in which the clients or participants that they're actually educating or counseling. And then my organizational work with the Society of Nutrition Education and Behavior, which I'm very proud to say that with our board of directors work and looking at DEI within the board and ensuring that our organization wanted to be mindful of that lens looking outward, created our first DEI committee that I chair, and really had an organizational commitment to ensuring that we weave the DEI work through our strategic planning, a lot of our goals, research, among the many buckets that we're looking at in terms of communication, and then listing our resources that we can provide to our constituents. So that's me.
And you can really hear that intersectionality, interdisciplinary, everything connected. And I have to say, I met Susan through that Society of Nutrition Ed and Behavior. So working on all those multiple levels. So thank you for that rich individual and professional sharing, much appreciated. Orion, last but not least, if you can tell us a little bit about yourself and also how you bring your work to the Boston Food Forest Coalition.
Yeah, hello everybody. My name is Orion Kriegman. I'm the executive director of the Boston Food Forest Coalition. We are a grassroots community land trust that owns land collectively It's a coalition of neighbors who came together to reclaim vacant lots in the city and redesign them as essentially food forest parks, edible community spaces. And Boston's really been heavily shaped by racist development policies and lending practices. Communities that were historically redlined also suffer a lack of access to open space and tree canopy. And so if we're going to be working to build a city that's inclusive for all, we have to address that history directly. And within the coalition, we have to address the different power and privilege of different members of just different neighbors coming together and working collaboratively on this challenge of collective ownership of land.
Fantastic. Just as a heads up to participants, if we don't get to live questions, we'll look at what comes in through the chat. The slides will be available. We're recording it, so have no worries there. It's just such a rich conversation. Want to follow through with some more. Susan and Karen, given your sort of community work and efforts at the community level, can you speak to sort of what's happening in your networks, and also in terms of where you see some positive inroads being made, where you see some momentum and challenges? So really looking at the equity work, some of the motivators you tap into, challenges and momentum. Susan, why don't you go first this time?
Sure.
But I'll give you, I'll top you out after about a minute or so.
Okay.
If
Yes, I can talk. But I would say the momentum I'm seeing, is within our organization, Society of Nutrition Education and Behavior. And, I've been part of the organization again for many years, and looking to see not only are the different types of positions, looking at research and how research should have that DEI lens, and really re-looking at how are we doing our research and what are the communities that we're using and how we're conducting, and then how does that extrapolate out into our text, our curricula, and how we're educating our students. Right now, I think the cultural competency section of my textbook is 3 paragraphs, right? And is there any real cultural competence? Is there? No, we shouldn't have competency. We should be learning this constantly. So understanding that, and then using that training mechanism with our curricula, and educating and ensuring that our clinicians and community nutritionists are out understanding the role and really diversifying the field. So I see that momentum even from A&D, forming special committees around diversity, ensuring that we are looking at that work. Where are our networks among our future RDs or nutritionists or community nutritionists? Where do we feel that pull from? And quite honestly, understanding that the field of nutrition is an expensive career, right? We ask our students to go to school extra to get their master's degree and pay for it, and then pay for an internship. And where that is a barrier in our DEI lens right there. If we have a person who is, underserved or in a different community or low income, and asking them to pay that amount of schooling and education throughout the years to then be eligible to be an RD, that's a barrier within our field. So
really looking at that sort of cultural connectedness, and also whether it's medical school, nursing, where all the different barriers we have to build the diversity. And Karen, I know you're working in a lot of communities and thinking about where do you see some momentum happening? Any little hints to help keep the momentum going? But yes, thank you so much. I wish we each had like 3 hours for this. Yes.
Thank
But
you.
everyone has your contact information. Karen?
So I work with, the network has about 300 food policy councils across the US. And in 2020, we surveyed them to ask, do you use a social or racial equity framework in your work to help you make decisions about policies and your work? And it was interesting to find that 38 of them said they do, 43% of them said they were developing, and then the rest said no, they didn't have one at all. And so it's indicative of this. There is a trend in terms of the work of councils and moving in this direction of figuring out how equity shows up in their work and how they center it in their work. And for oftentimes there's this perception that councils need to be this board of white professionals. And so really trying to break down this idea of what a food policy council looks like and the diversity amongst them, and reframing what that table looks like, how it starts, who it starts with, how it shifts not only who they're engaging, are they bringing people to the table, but asking, are there other tables we need to be going to, other spaces we need to be showing up in to be allies, not only with those working in the food system, but beyond, with education and income and transportation. So it is this, I think it's very exciting to see this movement grappling with how they not only reset their table, but shift the culture of how they work and their identity as these coalitions. And not only, it started with changing meeting times, offering childcare. Then they moved into providing just compensation for people to participate. And now really there's a culture shift that's on the horizon. So we're learning with them in this journey and trying to share resources. And the challenge is a great resource for councils to begin conversations, not only individually for their members, but for their groups to begin to talk with one another about how they do this, what equity looks like in the food system, and try to start to identify opportunities for their groups. So it's kind of this seeding of information within these local groups and seeing it grow, which is very exciting.
It surely sounds like building connectivity, building trust, moving at the speed of trust, and also looking at other wellness and belonging. I mean, those are some of our major goals this year. And Orion, in terms of the food forest and all the efforts that you're engaged with in terms of community building, what do you see as opportunities, motivations, some quick challenges?
Yeah, thanks, Jen. So as I mentioned, we are a multiracial, multi-generational coalition. And, it really started off with a diverse group of neighbors coming together to use the power and privilege that we had to create a pathway for land ownership by the community. So the vision of Boston Food Forest Coalition is that we are of the community, for the community, by the community. And in coming together, we have the ability to control the destiny of development in our neighborhoods. The nonprofit Community Land Trust really is the vehicle for that, and trust is the operative word. We own the land together, and we have to explore what does that mean to own the land together as a group of neighbors from diverse parts of Boston. And we're also raising resources to support our work together and to support the work of additional neighbors who are building food forests in other sections of Boston who are now going to join the coalition. So we're a vehicle for those resources to flow directly into the neighborhoods where people are organizing with their neighbors to create these spaces.
That is great. So you've got the ideas, but also some very tangible structural mechanisms to help move the needle forward. I know we could go on, and our webinar participants might not finish on time, but I invite, there's been such nice networking on the chat. If anybody has additional questions, by all means, continue to put them up in the chat. We've been sort of scanning them, and it seems like most of those have been answered, but we're happy to address after once this is completed, if we don't get a lot right now because of the time constraints. So we'll go to the next section here. And so if you're you want to be successful. So yes, you will be getting an email. It will have some basic information. It has some background material that if you get a chance to read, particularly with those of you who are new to the challenge, it will really set you up for success. It does help if you can block off time in your schedule, but we're all busy people. We work, we play, we have families, we have life that happens. So my guidance is there is a lot of richness in our challenge. If you miss a day, life happens. Do not say, "Oh, I'm a challenge failure." Just pick it up the next day. Use your weekend to catch up. But with anything important, time needs to be dedicated, but also give yourself some freedom as an adult, and that sometimes life happens and the weekend needs to be used, and that's exactly why we have the weekend time. The next slide. we're gonna go through these fast because they'll be available. Is there any general question or answer, or that's a good one. Any quick question you want to put in the chat about, oh, I still don't understand this part? Please do so, or yeah, that's probably the best way. You can also always email FSNE with your questions. We are so happy to answer questions. We want you to be collectively, yes, if you signed up for it, everything's going to come to you. And so by all means, yes, you should be getting that just fine. So in these last few minutes, it will be helpful to so when yes, a question came up, what would a daily email look like? So it might be the beginning email, good morning, welcome to the first day of the challenge. As we think about our call to building wellness, what does that mean for you? Here are some readings to think about it. How does wellness play out in the equity world? So it's a little paragraph and a little prompt for thinking about, and then links to readings or short videos, and you can sort of choose your own adventure. So you'll get a morning prompt around 6 or 6:30 in the morning Eastern time, and then you're on your way. So and you can also look, we've had last year's prompt still there if you want to get a flavor for it. So that's how it works, and you can choose how much time, breadth, and depth you want to use on the, you do have some options to explore the topic of the day. The emails come in early. It's around 6 a.m. That they come in the morning. That's Eastern time, so it'll be 6 a.m. Thanks, Shane. So here's a quick evaluation, which helps us as we try to plan these. If you can respond to the poll, 2 questions. How are you planning to participate in the challenge as an individual or a group? And then secondly, do you feel like you have a better understanding of what to expect with the challenge as a result of this webinar? I do want to reiterate as we finish up this section, we cannot do this alone. We are so much better together, and I sincerely thank our guest presenters, the planning team, and you all for deciding that today was important and you wanted to learn more, and committing to exploring what the challenge looks like. So we all have busy lives, and looks like people do feel like they're more prepared to understand what the challenge is about. And honestly, we totally invite any questions. You know, we always play this dance of, if you make a webinar too long, people won't sign up, but if it's too short, you try to put too much in. So I sincerely thank all of you for attending, and our participants, and look forward to a wonderful challenge of building wellness and belonging and a food system that works and nourishes all.